We are just about to hear from Fresno Police Chief Andy Hall concerning the arrest made in the mass shooting back in November. Let's take a listen.
Responsible for the tragic and senseless shooting that occurred in our city on Sunday, November 17th. On November 17th, 2019, at approximately 7:48 p.m., suspects entered the backyard residence at 5361 East Lamona, where friends and families had gathered to watch a football game. The suspects entered the backyard of the residence and opened fire on a crowd of about 16 males that were simply watching TV in the back patio. 10 people were shot. Sadly, 4 others died of their injuries. A total of 16 people were shot in this incident. The deceased are Ku Zhang, 38 years of Fresno, Fia Bang, 31 years old, Kalazang Tao, 40 years old, and Zai Li, 23 years old. This shooting affected not only the city, but also really impacted our Hmong American community. Almost immediately after the shooting, I was contacted by our state, federal, and local law enforcement partners who offered assistance, immediate assistance, with our investigation. These law enforcement partners also agreed to assist by joining the Asian Gang Task Force I had formed to investigate this shooting and bring the suspects to justice. I am joined here by many of these agencies whose efforts were instrumental in the arrest we are here to announce today. I am extremely grateful for their assistance, and on behalf of the community, I want to personally thank them and publicly acknowledge them. Also standing with me today is Mayor Lee Brand. I would like to thank him for all his support and the support he provided to the community. I would now like to have Deputy Chief Pat Farmer, our investigation division chief, come forward to acknowledge some of our partners in this investigation. Pat?
Thank you, Chief Hall. I'd like to acknowledge all of our partners who helped us on this task force that need to be recognized, that helped us solve this mass shooting and quadruple homicide. Internally, I'd first like to acknowledge Captain Dennis Bridges with our Street Violence Bureau. Dennis has been with the department for about 37 years. He has been an instrumental part of this task force, coordinating the meetings with all of our partners and ensuring we had good communication going on throughout the past 6 weeks. I'd also like to acknowledge Lieutenant Larry Bolin, our Street Violence Bureau commander, along with Sergeants Benson and Serrano in our homicide unit. They were not only part of the task force, but these 2 sergeants and Lieutenant Bolin were able to keep the flow of all of our other investigations going well. The city still had shootings, stabbings, robberies, and so forth, and the lieutenant and the 2 sergeants were able to do a great balancing act when it came to running the task force and handling all the other street violence that was occurring within the city of Fresno. I'd also like to mention our primary detectives, Miranda, Alvarez, Laban, and Motter, along with crime analyst Renee Long and the analysts from the ATF, HSI, and the FBI, who worked very well together in helping us in this task force put the pieces together. Every unit in our Street Violence Bureau, from the robbery unit, felony assault, homicide, night detectives, our tactical team, had a part in some form or fashion with this investigation. I'd also like to acknowledge our multi-agency gang force consortium, MAGIC. Early on, Chief Hall formed this task force, believing there was a high probability that this was gang-related, which turned out to be the case. And so having MAGIC involved in this task force was huge in helping us identify the key players that were involved. I'd also like to mention our Special Investigations Bureau. That's all of our plainclothes units, major narcotics, our vice intel, our auto theft unit that did a lot of the surveillance on this case and made a lot of doors and helped identify some of the key players. We also had our Family Justice Bureau involved on the day after Christmas when we served 19 search warrants, and they did an outstanding job with the forensics with the cell phones. We had over 170 cell phones or computers that had to be downloaded, and the forensics had to be completed on that. And with our federal partners and our state and local assets, we were able to do that. I'd also like to thank all of the SWAT teams, our SWAT team, all the other agency SWAT teams that helped us out, our patrol division, our support division, along with our crime scene investigators, CSI, who made it a priority to get this evidence processed quickly, our chaplain's office, and our volunteers as well. Locally, I'd like to acknowledge Lisa Smidkamp, our district attorney. Lisa and her prosecutors have been there from day one, helping us along with the DA investigators every step of the way. And I can't say enough about Lisa's team and the great work that they did. I'd also like to acknowledge the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, whose SWAT team helped serve some of the 19 search warrants, as well as the Clovis Police Department, whose officers made a traffic stop for mail theft. They made a significant arrest, one of our suspects involved in this crime, and also recovered one of the firearms used. So Clovis PD officers did a stellar job with that arrest. I'd also like to acknowledge the Fresno County Probation Department, our ACT team, adult compliance team, as well as the Tulare County Sheriff's Department, who's represented here as well. At the state level, I'd like to thank the California Highway Patrol, the OES, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, that have been a part of our task force from the beginning, as well as state parole, CDCR, and our local crime lab out here at Fresno State. They also made it a top priority to get this evidence processed quickly, and they knew that this was a serious case that had top priority. And also on the state side, CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, has been a great partner as well. And then finally, I'd like to acknowledge our federal partners, to include the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Homeland Security, HSI, the DEA, as well as the U.S. Marshal's Office and U.S. Attorney's Office. I could tell you with confidence that we would not have been able to solve this case if it wasn't for all of these partners I just mentioned. This was a team effort, and we worked very well together. And we're glad to be here today, standing with our partners side by side, being able to solve this case. And we couldn't have done it without them. So I'd like to thank each and every one of those partners for being here today and for all of their assistance. Now I'd like to turn it back over to Chief Hall. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. As you can see, this was a collaborative effort, and I'm very proud to be part of this team. Our investigation has revealed the following. On November 17th, 2019, at 4:19 a.m., a homicide occurred in our city at 3904 East Dwight. The victim in this case, a 28-year-old Randy Zhang, was murdered. Randy was the brother of a gang member who belonged to an Asian gang called the Mongolian Boys Society. This homicide is still an ongoing investigation and is being actively investigated at this time. Approximately 16 hours later, the shooting and homicide occurred at the Lamona residence. We know now that this was a retaliatory shooting towards the gang believed responsible for Randy Zhang's death. The Asian gang is known as the Asian Crips. A Crime Topper's tip served as a pointer in our investigation that led us to an interview of a person who had additional information on this case. This led to further tips and the end result. On December 17th, the Clovis Police Department arrested Billy Zhang for mail theft. Billy Zhang was a person of interest in the Lamona homicide. During a search of Zhang's vehicle, the Clovis Police Department located a Glock 9mm semi-automatic handgun and 2 high-capacity 30-round magazines. The gun had been modified to fire at a fully automatic capacity. The Fresno Police Department took possession of this weapon and confirmed through NIBIN's technology that this was used in the murder at the Lamona residence. The investigation then led us to securing search warrants in this case. On December 26th, the day after Christmas, the Fresno Police Department, with the assistance of other law enforcement agencies throughout the valley, served 19 search warrants in this case. 18 of those search warrants were served within the city of Fresno, and the 19th was served in the city of Visalia. 40 people were contacted at these locations, which led to multiple interviews. The 13 firearms you see before you today were recovered during these search warrants, and one of the firearms recovered in this search warrant was confirmed to be the second murder weapon, a .40 caliber Glock semi-automatic pistol. That pistol was discovered to be stolen out of Oklahoma. Investigators also received $46,000 in cash, which is suspected to be tied to drug activity. 2 vehicles used in the commission of this homicide were also located and seized as evidence. In addition to this, there was a significant amount of critical evidence that was recovered during these search warrants. This extensive investigation has led to the arrest of the following 6 suspects for the shootings and murders that occurred at Lamona residence. All 6 suspects are self-admitted Mongolian Boys Society gang members. Suspect Billy Zhang, 25 years, of Fresno. Anthony Montez, a 27-year-old, also of Fresno. Porge Koo, 26 years, of Fresno. Johnny Zhang, 25 years old, of Fresno. Pao Vang, 19 years old, of Fresno. And Giovanni Delgado, 19 years, of Fresno. All 6 of these suspects have been arrested, and we are requesting the following charges against them: 4 counts of homicide, 12 counts of attempted homicide, conspiracy to commit murder. These charges will also include gang and firearm enhancements. Each suspect is now being held on over $11 million of bail each. The Fresno Police Department is also looking for 23-year-old Sia Vang. Sia is a person of interest and someone we would like to talk to regarding this investigation. Sia Vang is currently wanted for an outstanding parole violation. If you have information to his whereabouts, we encourage you to call Crime Stoppers. At this time, I would like to call Mayor Lee Brand to the podium. Lee's been a real source of support for me personally, as well as the community. Lee?
Good morning. Over the past few weeks, I've attended funerals for young men who left this earth too early, victims of a senseless attack that threatened our city. At the ceremonies honoring their brief lives, I made a vow to ensure their deaths would not be in vain, and this tragedy would not end the dreams of their family and the Hmong community. Thanks to the relentless efforts of our local law enforcement, we now, hopefully, have a sense of closure for this terrible event that shook the city of Fresno to its core. I want to thank Chief Hall for both your patience and your persistence in the Fresno Police Department's efforts to identify the people responsible for this attack, and most importantly, to bring them to justice. It took thousands of hours and weeks of hard work to make sure we got it right. I know that Chief Hall and his team would not accept anything less. I want to thank every officer and civilian in the Fresno Police Department. I also want to thank the other law enforcement agencies who helped make these arrests possible, including the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, the District Attorney's Office, Homeland Security, federal investigators, and the FBI. Their cooperation has helped us make the arrest to take these criminals off the streets. For the families and friends of these young men who were brutally attacked on the night of November 17th, we still mourn your loss and we share your grief. This has been a trying and painful experience for our entire community, including our police officers. Thankfully, with today's news, we all can begin healing. I want to thank the Hmong community, and particularly my friends Pao Yang, Blong Zhang, Mitch Hare, and the Hmong elders for their trust and their support. I attended the annual Hmong New Year celebration last week, and I said we would do everything we can to solve this crime and protect their community. The promise of protection cannot stop with these arrests. We must continue to be vigilant, to be connected, and to be strong. This incident does not divide us nor define us. It only serves to unite us in our love of family and community. We will work hard to bring peace and comfort to every corner of the city of Fresno as we close this page on a very difficult year. As we look to the future, my hope, my prayer is for a peaceful and prosperous new year for the Hmong people and the entire city of Fresno, as we all resolve to find the better angels of our nature. Thank you, and God bless the city of Fresno.
Thank you, Mayor Brand. I'd like to also thank Deputy Chief Pat Farmer, Captain Dennis Bridges, and Lieutenant Larry Bolin for overseeing this investigation. More importantly, I'd just like to say how proud I am of our lead detectives and all of the investigators who worked tirelessly to find the suspects responsible for this crime. They were relentless. This investigation has accumulated nearly 5,000 investigative hours. I would also like to thank Dale Mendoza with Crime Stoppers for their help in this investigation and organizing the reward fund. While this investigation was taking place, it was also important that we provided assistance to the families and the Hmong American community. I would like to thank all of the volunteers in our community who came together to support the families in this time of need. I will most certainly not be able to name every person that got involved in this case, and those worked behind the scenes to help support the families. But I would like to specifically thank the Southeast District Commander, Captain Anthony Martinez, for his leadership with the community outreach. To all of our Southeast Asian officers who came in on their time off and on their weekends to support the community and our investigation. Again, I'd like to thank Mayor Lee Brand, the city council members, and Pao Yang of the Fresno Center. This investigation is not complete, and there's still a lot of work to do. The final chapter in this case will be a successful prosecution. I would now like to ask Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp to come forward and discuss the prosecution of these suspects.
Thank you, Chief Hall. On behalf of the Fresno County District Attorney's Office, I would like to once again extend my condolences to the friends and the family and the neighbors of the victims in this case. 4 people lost their lives and 6 people were injured by gunfire. Additionally, a neighborhood and the entire Hmong community, as well as every person who lives in the city, was victimized by this rage and terror. Many of us who are up here today stood in front of you back in November and promised to combine our resources to bring these animals to justice. And today we are here to announce that we have done just that. I would like to thank and congratulate Chief Hall, and the Fresno Police Department for their valiant effort in investigating this horrendous crime. Sergeant Andre Benson and his team of detectives are amazing law enforcement personnel, and we are so blessed to have them working for us and with us. His team of detectives has led this investigation with the highest professional standards, and their commitment to finding these individuals has led us here today. The District Attorney's Bureau of Investigations has been proud to partner with the Fresno Police Department and our local, state, and federal partners to assist in this extremely complex investigation. And we will be reviewing the reports as soon as they are received to ensure that each person who participated, assisted, aided, or abetted the shooters in this case are held accountable for their actions. From the briefings I have been a part of, this case presents a factual basis for consideration of special circumstances murder. That means, upon full review of the facts and evidence in this case, that some or all of the defendants could face a maximum penalty of life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Circumstances which allow for special circumstances to be alleged are enumerated in California Penal Code Section 190.2 and 190.4. We will also be looking at evidence to determine if there is sufficient facts to substantiate charges for aiders and abettors who assisted in these murders, and we will be evaluating the behavior patterns and actions of the players to determine what level of involvement each person had in the planning, coordinating, and execution of this murderous conspiracy. The determinations as to what charges will be filed against each defendant will be announced via a press release from our office on Thursday, January 2nd, 2020.
Thank you, Lisa. This time I'd also like to bring up Kurt Sheriff from the United States Attorney's Office. They have been with us every step of the way, giving us advice and guidance. Kurt.
Thank you, Chief Hall. Thank you, Chief Hall. Kirk Sheriff with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We are here first to offer again condolences to the victims of this horrific crime. And second, more importantly, or equally importantly, we are here offering support and have been offering support to our local partners, led by the Fresno Police Department and the District Attorney's Office, and Chief Hall and his team have done an incredible job. This is also an example under Fresno Police Department leadership of a great law enforcement effort of collaboration and cooperation at multiple levels to bring together resources to bring perpetrators to justice. We're going to continue working and assisting the DA's office and Fresno Police Department as we can, and I want to leave it at that. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Robert Tripp from the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI.
Thank you, Chief Hall. Our FBI Safe Streets Task Force, based at our Fresno resident agency, worked closely with the Fresno Police Department and with our local, state, and federal partners to help identify those responsible for the violent attack on Lamona Avenue. Our agents and task force officers have worked countless hours in support of the outcomes that have been briefed today, and our investigation continues. The FBI knows well the impact of violent acts among Fresno citizens, in particular among the Hmong community. Our dedication to this case follows from our service to that community, to the victims, and to the victims' families, for whom we offer our most sincere condolences. We will sustain our investigation as long as needed to ensure that all of those culpable in this crime are brought to justice. This investigation, I should know, aligns squarely with our shared mission of those before you to remove violent criminals from our communities and to keep our neighborhoods safe and secure. With the continued assistance of the public, and by working side by side with our local, state, and federal partners, we will accomplish those goals.
Next, I'd like to ask Tatum King from the Homeland Security Investigations to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hall. Good morning, everyone. Also offer our condolences from Homeland Security Investigations out of San Francisco, and most especially our colleagues at the Fresno office who have been working tirelessly with our Fresno Police Department partners, as well as all who are represented here today. Homeland Security Investigations takes the priority area of gang investigations as one of our top issues, one of our top investigative areas that we focus on in the region. During the last fiscal year, which just ended on September 30th, our office made over 240 arrests in the region, including Northern California, just focused on gang cases and gang violators. These are transnational criminal organizations, again, that prey on our most vulnerable members of our community. Alone here, the last 2 years, working again with our outstanding investigative and professional staff here in Fresno, working with our Fresno Police Department partners and other local, state, federal partners, they've made 100 gang-related arrests, working on various initiatives. So the work is really, it's ongoing every day. It's a priority for us. We don't want to see crimes like this. We don't want to see victims, innocent victims of our community that are terrorized by these organizations that often employ extortion, other types of violence, again, just to impact the most vulnerable victims of our society. Regarding this case specifically, we had all hands on deck on day one supporting our partners. And again, I applaud the efforts of our Fresno office here, who's represented at this press event. And we are obviously supported, the the Homicide Division and Street Violence Bureau, as well as, again, MAGIC that was already mentioned, the Multi-Agency Gang Enforcement Consortium. Again, all these folks are focused on one thing, and that's public safety, and that's our focus as well. We're focused on criminal investigations to make our community safer where we obviously reside. And frankly, when it comes down to it, working together, you see the impact, you see the results of that. And again, truly, this is not a one agency event, and really all these types of cases are worked together. And again, I applaud the efforts of Fresno Police Department, Chief Hall, for the great work that they've done here, as well as, again, our other local, state, and federal partners. We can't do it alone, and wish you a Happy New Year.
I'd like to echo Mr. King's comments that his investigators were out at the scene almost immediately to help us. Next, I'd like to invite to the podium Jennifer Ciccolani. She's with the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. The ATF was instrumental for us in identifying the weapons used in this homicide. The NIBIN technology that is provided by the ATF has been just a godsend in helping us locate guns that are used in crimes, and I think this is a prime example of this technology. Jennifer?
Good morning. I'm Assistant Special Agent in Charge Jennifer Ciccolani with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or ATF, San Francisco Field Division. ATF and our partners have been working with the Fresno Police Department throughout their investigation into the mass shooting that occurred in Fresno on November 17th of this year. 14 firearms were recovered during this investigation. Through the use of ATF's National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN, 2 firearms were confirmed as firearms used in the Fresno mass shooting. NIBIN analyzes ballistic evidence recovered at crime scenes and offers a regional approach to closing any intelligence gaps. This allows law enforcement to quickly link crime guns to their violent offenders. ATF will continue to work with the Fresno Police Department and other federal partners throughout this investigation. And my condolences and our condolences again to the community. This is where I grew up, so it's an honor to be able to serve you in this way. So thank you.
I just can't tell you how proud I am to be part of this team behind me. The dedication and the professionalism of everybody behind me is just amazing, and I'm proud to stand with them. While I know these arrests will provide some form of closure for the victim's family, it will never take away the pain and the sense of loss they're suffering, and I'm sorry for that. Our thoughts and our prayers will be with the families. At this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
I have a question for the ATF representative. This fully automatic Glock, these parts, precursor parts, are usually imported from China. Is there an investigation of how they're getting here and what was done about that?
So I can't speak to any investigations in particular. Ourselves, ATF and HSI, work together for the, they're called conversion kits. So it's a simple piece that slides into the back of a weapon to make it fully automatic.
Have you had a chance to speak with any of the family members at the point to bed and let them know that the custody made? If so, the reaction was that look like for all of you to be able to let them know that this reached this point?
Well, I know that our investigators do follow up with the families and let them know that of the progress of the case. We have made contact with most of them. I'm sure that there is some sense of relief that these suspects are off the street and there will be no other victims. But again, they're still dealing with a lot of pain and suffering, and I don't believe that this alone is going to repair that ever.
Chief, first of all, thanks for holding this news conference. Can you talk a little bit more about the gang aspect of this? Now, it's been said all along that the victims do not have any gang affiliation. Is there any reason why they were targeted if that's the case?
Well, I can tell you that one of the people at the party was a prior or an affiliate of the Asian Crips gang. He was not active, so this was his past. There was also 5 people that had left the party before officers arrived. We have not identified them, so we don't know if they played a role in this homicide or not. What we do know is that the suspects did believe this was an Asian gang party and targeted that house.
Was the person who was a member of the Asian Crips, was he one of the victims or?
Again, I'm not going to identify the person at the party. I consider them victims, and I'm not going to re-victimize him right now.
So, Chief, were there in fact 16 people shot? That's the first time we've heard that.
16 people were shot at the party. 16 people were at the party, 10 were shot, and 4 were killed. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Was that just outside? Because before we had heard that there were people inside as well, and that there were over a dozen outside, but possibly close to. I knew that it was told that there was over 40 at the entire party.
There was between 30 and 40 people at the party. There were actually 16 people that were outside watching TV at the time of the shooting. 10 of those were shot and 4 died.
And then I heard 2 numbers. Was it 14 guns that were taken or 13?
There were 13 guns recovered in the search warrant. The 14th gun was recovered by Clovis. Any other questions?
Can you point out which one of those guns those were?
The gun on my right would be the gun that was recovered by Clovis Police Department, and the gun on my left would be recovered in the search warrants.
Chief, originally said there were 2 suspects, and now there's 6 arrested. They all have different ways of trying to come up with this.
All 6 were involved in the planning and the conspiracy and the commitment to commit this crime. They're all being charged with homicide. At this point, we're not releasing the information as far as who the actual shooters are. We do know that. However, this will go to the district attorney's office, and any information will be released by them.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about the past few weeks? Do you think any of the suspects kind of went underground, or kind of the trial to reach them?
I believe that we did a fantastic job of maintaining our investigation in-house. As large as this group is behind me, there was very little word that got out of the investigation and the team put together by Deputy Chief Farmer. They moved around freely, and were even continuing to commit crimes as shown by Clovis. So there's no indication that they know that we were onto them.
Did they ever leave town?
Some of them did leave town, but we don't believe it was because of the homicide. We believe it was just because they do have family members out of state.
How much did the $50,000 reward play into this, especially with that high of a number?
The reward actually rose to over $50,000, and the information actually came in relatively early, before the reward money got that high. Although Crime Stoppers certainly played a role in the investigation, this was really solved by just really great police work by the team behind me and over here.
You mentioned that the Visalia connection, you issued a press release searching Visalia. Can you talk a little about what kind of evidence you got from the Visalia search?
Yeah, I don't have that information. I don't believe we received a lot of physical evidence other than we located some people of interest that we wanted to talk to.
You went through a lot of phones, computers. How did that play into connecting other possible suspects?
Well, again, that's part of the investigation. The electronic technology is used by everyone. They communicate back and forth. It's used to see how we can track them. But most of it, I'll be honest with you, most of our investigation was from just good police work and questioning and getting out and talking to people.
Chief, can you just clarify really briefly? You said that the homicide earlier on the same day of the shooting, the victim was the brother of a Mongolian Boys Society gang member?
That's correct.
And then how did that lead to the shooting at the party exactly? That was
Yes, they believed that the party at the Lamona address was Asian Crips, a rival gang. So they struck that house believing it was an Asian Crip party.
The Mongolian Boys Society gang members thought that it was Asian Crips at the party.
Correct.
Okay.
Was that a case of mistaken identity?
Well, we don't really know because we haven't identified everybody at the party. It's still under investigation. But what we do know is that they believed this was an Asian Crip house, or it was a location that was being frequented by Asian Crip gang members. However, our investigation right now only indicates one person at the party or at the football game had an associate with Asian Crips, was not an active gang member.
Can you just review what helped break this case?
Well, again, I'm not really prepared to try the case here today. That's going to really be for the DA, Lisa Smitkamp, to prove. But I can tell you it's just from a lot of work from a lot of people, very dedicated to get people identified and then into custody. So I'm really not going to go into all the legwork that went into it.
You just wanted to know what the bail is for?
Yeah, it's a little over $11 million. I believe it's just over $11 million per suspect charged.
From 6 around
$11 million each.
And are all of the 6 suspects who were arrested, are they all confirmed to be current Mongolian Boys Society gang members at the time?
Yes, they were. They all admitted it.
And they said that the reason why they went to Dallas is because of that person's prior affiliation?
It was they all admitted that they were there to retaliate against the Asian Crips.
Did they have any familial relation to the victim who was the brother of the gang member, the suspects?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did they have any criminal history?
Most of them did have a criminal history, some larger than others. Most of them had some violence in their past, but it wasn't an extensive criminal history on any of them. Probably the most serious was a home invasion by one of the suspects, a 211, a robbery, home invasion.
Do we know, can you tell me which one?
Is that the one that's still outstanding? So that would be Sia Veng, the one we're still looking for, has an outstanding, or had that. He also has an outstanding warrant. Again, most of them had drug charges, some for domestic violence, probation violations, vehicle theft and robbery. It's a variety of charges.
What's the status of the 6 victims who didn't survive, and were they ever helpful in the investigation?
They've been very cooperative. We've gotten good cooperation from not only the victims but the entire Hmong community. So we're very happy with the support we've gotten from the community as well as the families.
They're all in the hospital?
They're all out of the hospital, yeah.
And Chief Paul, did you say that you had already arrested a suspect in the homicide that occurred that morning?
The suspects in the Dwight homicide are still outstanding. This case has actually given us some additional investigative leads that we're following up now.
And is that person believed to be an Asian member?
Yes.
Chief, you set up the Asian gang task force in the wake of this. What's next for that task force? wrapped up, disbanded?
Well, right now we still have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of follow-up. There may be additional arrests. There certainly could be additional charges. So right now we'll be continuing the work and staying together. But we won't keep a task force together. This was specific to this case, and once they are brought to justice and that's finished with the prosecution, then we'll rest.
Chief, I'm not sure if you answered this before. Were any of the suspects related to any of the victims?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Chief, the suspect who was arrested by the Clovis PD, was he involved in acting like that day when he shot, he was there and the gun was used?
The suspect that Clovis PD arrested for mail theft has been arrested in the Lamona homicide. So he is one of our suspects in the Lamona homicide. Does that answer your question? Okay.
How serious are the rivalries between these different Asian gangs? This is a long-standing rivalry situation or something?
This is a long-standing rivalry between these. We haven't had significant violence. It was on the rise, as I indicated at the first press conference. But we believe it was in retaliation to a specific event.
Chief, you said one of the guns was stolen from out of state, but the rest of the guns they illegally bought it or they stole it?
Well, there's still a lot of investigation on the guns. We do know the gun, the .40 caliber over on my left is stolen out of Oklahoma. The gun on my right, the Glock, was from out of Arizona. We're still following up on that to determine the status of that gun. That'll conclude it. Thank you.
You have been listening live to a press conference by Fresno Police Chief Andy Hall, who finally gave this community at least a little peace. 6 suspects have been arrested in that mass shooting at a football party at a Hmong residence back in November. They're still looking for a person of interest, but these are the pictures of the 6 suspects that have been arrested on a number of charges: 4 counts of homicide, 12 attempted homicide charges, conspiracy to commit murder, and of course gang and firearms enhancements. These are all members, we are told, of the Mongolian Boys Society. It is a Hmong gang specifically that has ties all over the state of California.
And to put this all into perspective, Chief Hall also mentioned that this really unraveled on December 17th. That is when Clovis police arrested a man, Billy Zhang. You see him at the top of this graphic here. He is the man who they say is responsible for mail theft. Clovis police pulled him over, arrested him. Inside the vehicle that he was in, they found a modified Glock, 2 magazines. They later determined through testing that that particular weapon was used in the shooting that took place on November 17th. Again, this all happened at a watch party for a football game between the Rams and the Bears. As we mentioned in the press conference, children were inside a home. 16 people were out in the backyard watching that game when it was a retaliation shooting that unfolded. We know 10 people were shot, 4 people died. This news of the recent arrests that we're learning about today is all kind of unfolding and happening at a time when the Hmong New Year celebration is taking place at the Fresno Fairgrounds. But again, so far we know 6 suspects have been arrested. 1 suspect is still outstanding today.
We, of course, will have much more information and coverage on this announcement of the arrest today on later editions of Action News. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.